Solo board gaming night here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Role Player Adventures. I'm going to give you an overhead view of the table so you have a rough idea of how much space the game takes up on the table. I am playing three-handed, and it does take up a lot of space when doing so. However, even with that said, there is a way to use up a lot less space. I just personally like having everything laid out in a way that makes it easier for me to be able to understand everything going on at once. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the box and its components. The box of Role Player Adventures looks great. It has great art all around, but it is significantly one of the bigger board game boxes I personally own. You'll see that I put, for comparison's sake, Mage Knight, so you could see the scale of just how different and how much bigger Role Player's Adventure is to that. The good thing about this is that the entirety of Role Player Adventures, along with its expansion, fit inside of the box without us having to figure out some sort of storage solution to make it work. It's so well organized. Everything from the actual expansion book to the rule book and all the books included, the Tomb of Encounters, the player boards, the skill book, the dice, and the dice bag, along with all the inserts that hold all the components, including the cards and tokens needed to play the game, fit entirely inside of the box without any issue at all. This is something that board game companies should absolutely take note. This was extremely well done. The quality of the actual adventure books themselves feel really good. When you're flipping them, it never feels like they're gonna rip or anything. The backstory codex, the Tome of Encounters, along with the skill book, all have this spine that holds everything together very well, and it feels sturdy. When it comes to the dice and the dice bag, very good quality, no complaints. The character boards are double layered and they look phenomenal. There's no warping and it all works great. And when it comes to the inserts, this is phenomenal. It holds everything from the cards to the miniature and all the tokens and doodads that you're gonna need to play this game, and it's organized perfectly. It's great. As a whole, the entire component quality of this package is absolutely top tier, top notch. And did I forget to mention, it all fits inside the box. The rulebook for Role Player Adventures wastes absolutely no time getting you started. There's only 22 pages worth of rules, and it's very precise and laser focused on all the information you need to get started. When it comes to actual illustrations and art, they're just black and white sketched pictures thrown all about, but the main focus and objective of this rulebook is giving you as much information as you need, as easy and quickly as possible to get you started. Now, there are some errors that you can find fixed in their errata book that they released, and it's less than 5 pages. I printed it out. For a game this size, it's actually very impressive how few errors were in the rulebook and the game itself. Each adventure book will guide you on how to set up your current adventure that you're about to embark on. Simply set up the map, any tokens, and XP as you're instructed to do so in the setup page. If you own the expansion Nephros' Judgment, make sure you look at your backstory board to see if you have to place any backstory marker on the map. If so, make sure you place that backstory marker in the appropriate portion of the map. And with that, you're ready to embark on your adventure. Simply start reading the appropriate entry in your location, and depending on the decisions you have to make or the actions you have to take will determine what you do next. During your adventure, you're going to run into encounter tokens. Flip the encounter token over, and depending which number is revealed, you'll have to look at that entry in the Tome of Encounters. That entry will let you know what that encounter will do and what you have to do. Throughout your adventure, you're going to be running into what's called skill checks or enemy encounters. Some skill checks and enemy encounters will have modifiers placed next to them, changing the way you approach each given situation. This is where your character's attributes come into play. You spend character attributes to be able to manipulate which colored dice you get to choose from your dice bag. From there, you roll your dice, and by using the cards available to you, you use those cards to manipulate and mitigate the dice that you rolled, changing them and hopefully defeating any skill check or enemy encounter that has been placed before you. When on a space with a backstory token, make sure you refer to the Backstory Codex of Nephris' Judgment expansion to find out which entry you have to read and what you have to do next. Make sure to jot down any personal title that you earn this way on your backstory character board. Keep exploring the map, interacting with characters, using items, and pretty much making decisions until you've completed the adventure book. At the end of every adventure book, you're given the opportunity to spend XP and gold to level up. You can use the XP you earned to level up your character's attribute points by spending it on the mastery track. When you do that, each of your characters can choose one of your attributes and increase it, making your characters progressively stronger after each adventure. You can also increase your play limit, which are the number of cards you could play during an encounter, the combat dice limit, the bonus plays you could use, and your health. You'll then be able to spend the gold that you earn throughout your adventure on the market. The market is where you're going to find certain cards that are going to be placed on the table. From there, any card that you purchased will be added to any character of your choosing. When you're done playing, it is incredibly easy to save your game. Any unspent XP will be marked on the save box right here. The same goes with any unspent gold you have as well. From there, your faction alignment will be marked with an X to remind you where they stand. Finally, any keywords you've collected throughout your adventure get erased. Set aside any earned party title, and don't forget to mark your campaign track so you remember which adventure book you completed last. From there, separate all of your player cards and the party titles so that you can start off right away when you start playing your adventure the next time. There's actually a lot to talk about when it comes to role-player adventures, but before I even get to my thoughts, I actually want to let you know what I think that this game actually reminded me of. Role-player adventures actually reminded me of the old point-and-click adventures like Monkey Island, Grim Fandango, and the great Sam & Max. It has a lot in common with the point-and-click genre. And that's just it. Role-player adventures is actually a point-and-click adventure, but in board game form. And it's really what it is. It comes down to that same exact feeling. Why do I say that? Is because, as you see here, you have your heroes that are going around the map. Depending which part of the map you end up going to is going to determine whether you're doing a combat that needs the Tome of Encounters or if you need to do a skill book check. But also, you're going to be getting items, and I didn't want to show you anything here. So if you look at the table, I kind of cleared everything out. And one of the reasons I cleared everything out is because I didn't want to show any spoilers, because unfortunately for this game, in order for me to show you things, it would mean spoiling a lot of cool little things that I don't want to spoil. And one of the biggest similarities that this game has to a point-and-click adventure is, as you make your way around this map, you start collecting those items I mentioned. Well, sometimes you can find an item here, and you might move around the map and find an item over there, right? And what ends up happening is you can merge these items or combine these items to create a different item, just the way you could do it in a point-and-click adventure. I mean, it's exactly the same thing. At least for me personally, that was the feeling that I had during my whole entire time playing role-player adventures. And in my opinion, because I like that type of game, I really enjoyed it, and I didn't expect that type of gameplay to be found inside of Role Player Adventures. It took me by absolute surprise, and it was a pleasant surprise because it had me experimenting, and you could actually go around different parts of the map, and you can experience different things that may happen. Now, keep in mind, every time you do that, you're gonna be using the cards will be telling you how much fatigue you'll get, and you'll have to place fatigue on your characters, and you got to be careful because your characters have a fatigue limit or a health limit that once they reach that limit, they get exhausted. So you can't just go willy-nilly. You actually really got to think about where you want to use the item and how, so that you don't get fatigued and exhausted. Another really cool feature that's in Role Player Adventure is actually the map itself. Because you see, this is where the story element of this game comes in. This game is going to absolutely rely 100% on your imagination. When you read, do you enjoy reading and picturing what you're seeing or what you're reading? Because me personally, that's what I do. See, if you play the game this way, if you're able to imagine the world that's being created in these pages, in these adventure books, this map turns it comes to life a lot more than what you see here, if that makes sense to you. See, right here, you just see an overhead view of random maps, which takes you to a lot of varied locations, and it really does feel like an epic adventure. That right off it feels epic. But what makes it even grander, in my opinion, is if you like story, if you like stories in your board games, and you like reading, and you like I mentioned, picturing the situation in which the characters find themselves in, if you're able to do that, if you enjoy doing that, this map comes alive. It really, really comes alive. You start to envision what's in every part of the map that you see here. It becomes something more than a 2D picture. It becomes something greater, and ultimately it comes down to you. How much you immerse yourself in a story, how much you immerse yourself in whichever journey or adventure your characters, your heroes are going on. And that is one of my favorite parts of Role Player Adventures, is the immersion that can come out of these books. There are 11 books in total. There's one book that's actually, there's 12, but one book is a side story, like a side quest, but there's 11 total actual adventure books that you have to go through, and each adventure is grander and greater than the next. And even though you're seeing and you're looking at a 2D map, your imagination is what's gonna bring this story to life. So it's either gonna make it or break it for you. That's depending on how you feel about reading and using your imagination, is gonna determine whether this game is for you or not. Another thing I want to mention here is, if you see right there, there's some book tokens on the map. Now that actually has to do with the actual backstory codex that comes with the expansion of the game, Nephros's Judgment. Now, each character that you choose is gonna have a background and a background story, and as you start exploring different maps and different locations, you're going to be going around the map and running into backstory tokens, and that is very reminiscent if you've ever played Skyrim or any type of RPG where you see a whole bunch of little side stories or side quests pop up on the map. Well, that's your personal, for your character, their personal side quest or backstory that pops up specifically for them. And what it does, it actually it creates a character, like more depth to the characters that you're controlling. You get to know them more. You get to bond with them more. You get to really invest yourself in their story, in their purpose, in their adventure. And if you don't have the expansion, it's okay. You're going to be able to still play the game. However, you may miss out on some really cool backstories when it comes to characters' lore. Now, even though this backstory codex is huge, it's ginormous. Now, this whole entire book, you will not read it all during an entire playthrough because for me, in my example, I played three-handed, so I'm only going to be able to see 3 of these stories, but look how many there are. Look how many there are. If you look in the back, there's a ton of them, and I only got to see 3 of them. So in a way, it doesn't bother me because it actually, for me personally, creates a lot of replayability that I could come back months down the road, a year later, and say, you know what? I'm going to play a different character with a different backstory and see what happens next. And on top of that, I'm actually going to talk about your actual decisions that you make in the game. Oh boy, you are going to be making some decisions, I promise you. And what I love this. I can't even think of a negative right now with Role Player Adventures because, oh, it's so good. All right, so you're going to find yourself in certain situations where you're going to be approached with some decisions. And you're going to think that, hey, this is the clear way for me to go. I'm going to choose this path. The thing is, even though you're going to be playing one individual adventure book, as you can complete these adventure books and go on to different adventure books, your decisions that you made in one adventure book is going to go ahead, carry over, and sometimes haunt you in a different adventure book. And what you may think was the right choice may actually be a detriment to you. And you're going to start thinking, oh my goodness, if I would have known that this would have happened, I would have handled it differently. And that is where the game kind of has this gotcha. Because from the moment you realize that your decisions can drastically change what your adventurers go through and what happens in the story, you start to really take it very seriously. At least I did, but I get really immersed in these games. Whenever I was presented with a choice, a decision, I really thought about it. I really weighed in heavily. I started to think, okay, if I do this, this and this may happen. And this would be beneficial if I do this. However, if I do make this other choice, I'd be able to do something else, and this will be beneficial to me. And none of them will ever be, I guess what I can say is, they will never feel like the perfect choice. You may think at one point it's the perfect choice until it comes and bites you back and you start to kind of lament the decisions that you made. But that is what makes this game so cool. And it's not black and white. It's not going to be, oh, this is easy, I'm going to just choose this, that's it, move on. No. The game will definitely challenge you. It will definitely test you, and it will make you really think, if you were in this given situation, is this really the right choice? And this game does that beautifully, masterfully. I loved it. I absolutely enjoyed every single decision that I made in this game. I was really feeling it, and it did an excellent job carrying through onto the next adventures. Excellent stuff here when it comes to decision making. Now's a good time to actually talk about replayability, because this is where there may be a point of contention for you. For me personally, because of the backstory codex and because of the multiple decisions that I didn't make, it to me it has replayability. You may not feel the same, and I'm just being honest. Maybe you're the type of person that once you've read the story and you've gotten to the end, you've gotten what you wanted out of it and you move on to the next thing, and that's fine. Me personally, I could see myself coming back a year later using different characters to have different backstories and making different decisions to see how it would affect the outcome of the actual story. With that said, there are 11 adventure books, and each adventure book, it's going to vary in length. So what I don't want to leave out of this review is the fact that you're going to need to set aside, I would say, to be on the safe side, anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to sit down and play. Like the first few books, they're not that long. You could probably get through it in about 2 hours, maybe a little bit less. But there are definitely some books that took me, at least, and maybe it was just me, but it took me a little bit longer. So just keep that in mind, and be aware that when you're going to sit down and play this game, I would make sure that I would set aside anywhere between 2 to 3 hours just so you could take your time and explore and do what it is that you have to do. And you will need to go through an entire book in one session. I've never played the original Role Player, so I can't comment on how similar the gameplay element of this game actually is compared to that. But you're going to be doing a lot of skill checks and a lot of battle checks to see, to figure out ways to be able to complete or cover these open or uncovered sections of dice with dice to either prevent damage, to gain rewards, and to complete either defeating bad guys or completing skill checks. And what I do like about this is, let's say, for example, this goblin. If you were to face this goblin again, instead of doing the same exact thing that you did previously, what the game will do is it will throw what they call modifiers on it. And these modifiers, depending what it is, like one of the first ones you'll see is a cornered goblin. You'll put this modifier next to the goblin, and that will change certain aspects of the gameplay. And there's a whole bunch of them. And these modifiers is what actually keeps the game feeling really fresh and really engaging. You're never going to feel like, oh, I've already done this skill check before. Let's just say introspection. I've already done this skill check before. I know how to do it. I'm just going to do it again. It's a different level, but I'm just going to do it again. Well, maybe this time there's going to be a modifier added to that skill check, which is going to make you approach that whole entire skill check completely different, in a different way than you had to approach it last time. And I think that gameplay wise, this game does a really good job keeping you on the toes. And I love the card play, how you could use the cards to manipulate the dice and flip it and change the colors so you're able to complete the different types of dice that are presented on the boss cards or on the skill checks. But to me personally, although it sounds simple, it was always engaging, and it always had me entertained and trying to figure out all of the cards that my heroes had, to find the best way to be able to solve this problem that would be presented before me. And personally, I really enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it a lot, and mixed in with all the exploration point and click style and all the item combinations and all the good stuff in the story, this game had so many good things going for it that honestly, it's hard for me to find a lot of negatives or any negatives, and I wish I could, but I'm gonna try. Okay, so I could say that a negative is that you have to use these pads to be able to play the game. These are like the character attribute pads and whatnot, and there's a finite amount of them that they can run out, and then you won't be able to play. However, you could go online to the website and print a whole bunch of them for free, which is what I did, and I guess that kind of negates any negative that I could have said. I mean, this game really really had me struggling to find a negative because I really enjoyed it that much. I really did. I had a lot of fun with it. This felt like an epic journey. This felt like an epic adventure that had a point and click feel to it that I wasn't expecting that. And it was really, it caught me off guard, and combining the items and exploring the map and meeting all sorts of different characters, and you have factions that they could either gain, you could gain favor or lose favor, and depending what happens, things change. The whole world goes crazy, cats and dogs living together, all that good stuff. It was crazy how good this game was for me personally. If you love story, if you love lore, if you love exploration and adventure, if you like card play, if you like dice play, do yourself a favor and check out Role Player Adventures. Now, if you demo it, don't just start like in the middle of somebody's game. Like, go literally Adventure Book 1 to Adventure Book 1 and check that out. Don't jump around, because you're doing yourself a disservice by doing that. Start with Adventure Book 1 and see if this is the right game for you. If what I have mentioned here and shown off here sounds intriguing, by all means go out and play it. You're not going to regret it. This is masterclass type of board gaming here. This is so well done. I'm so glad that I had I had the opportunity to be able to experience it, and I hope that you do too, because this is what this is all about. Finding great experiences and sharing it with one another. And that's what I hope that I did here today. This was Solo Board Gaming Night. Thank you so much once again for joining me. It means a lot to me, and I have a lot of great fun doing this. And I hope you have a great game night. Take care.